Today we are going to talk about cruise ship transfers. We've got some updates on Holland America and Japan, and we are also going to talk about, I came across a news story about someone on TikTok talking about not cruising to Alaska again because of the experience that they had, and I think it's really important for us to talk about that here. Hi there, this is Allison with Let's Go Travel Tips. Today, let's start off talking about cruise ship transfers. Cruise ship transfers pretty much work the same across different cruise lines. So the way they work, a transfer is the cruise line being in charge of taking you from one place to another. Usually it is taking you from the airport down to the ship at the cruise port there, or taking you from a hotel that you book with the cruise line to the ship, or from the ship to the airport, from the ship to the hotel that you book with them, and then after that they'll take you to the airport. So a few things to think about as you do this. There are different ways that you can book a cruise ship transfer. You can either do it on the website when you book your cruise the same way. For example, on the Princess website, you just go in under, I believe it's under travel, and you can check to add a transfer if they're available. If you don't see one there, you just call up Princess and they will help you add it that way. If you've already made final payment for your cruise, you pay for it right at that time. If you have not made final payment for your cruise, they just add it to the total for your cruise and you pay for it when you make your final payment. Alrighty? If you've got a travel agent, you just let them know that you would like that transfer and they will add it to your booking for you. Now, when you think about doing this, there are a few different ways to know how to find the people, the actual people, the Princess people. Let's use Princess for the example. We have done celebrity transfers and we've done Norwegian transfers. Can't remember if I don't think we did a Royal Caribbean transfer, but from everything that I've heard, they work the same. So on the Princess website, when you go in, historically, at least on my last cruise, when I went on Princess, on the Discovery Princess at the end of October, it told me in my travel summary as part of that where to meet. Okay, it also comes up in your itinerary. On your itinerary, it will show that you have like the transfer from the airport to the ship. Go to baggage claim. It usually tells you which baggage claim number to find them and which terminal, that whole thing. If it doesn't and you can't see it and it's not there, when you land at the airport, go to baggage claim and start looking for people. For example, when you're going into Seattle, you're going to Alaska, just go to baggage claim and walk down. There's a long line because they have a lot of baggage claim carousels there. Just walk along until you find there's always a sign, and I've seen the signs like when I'm in the Miami airport, you see it for all the cruise lines. The same with Seattle, same with anywhere that they'll be. They'll either have a big sign up or they'll have someone holding a sign to let you know. You go right up to them and say, I'm here to take the transfer, and they'll take your luggage from you at that point. You'll see it again when they bring it to your cabin, and then they'll tell you where to wait for the transfer to go. Now, if you arrive somewhere and you sure wish that you had booked that transfer, then but you didn't, you can still go up and say, I would like to take the transfer. They'll take your name and that charge will be added to your shipboard account. Okay, I think it's really nice that they're flexible that way and they will take you. One really nice thing I noted about Holland America is when I went by myself on Holland America at the end of June last year to Alaska. At the last minute, when we realized Gordon couldn't come, we decided to have me fly into Vancouver just for ease. Fly into Vancouver, and then so I just took an Uber from the hotel I stayed at by the Vancouver airport over to the ship, and then but on the way back I took the transfer from the port there in Vancouver down to the Seattle airport. It's because round trip from Vancouver was very, very expensive. We could change me flying into Vancouver for not much more. But if I wanted to fly home from Vancouver, that was a lot. So we just kept the Seattle leg. But anyway, they actually called when I did not show up for the transfer. I had called and told them, I said, I just need the transfer now from the ship to the airport. I don't need it from the airport to the ship. But they called when I didn't show up and they wanted to know where I was. I thought that was absolutely wonderful. I love that they do that, because then if you're delayed or you're somewhere in the airport and they can't find you or whatever, they can say, oh, come over here. Here's where we are. That is the only time I've had anyone call. And so when Gordon told him, because they called his number first, he said, oh, she doesn't need it. And we called to let you know. And she's like, oh, they print these lists like a week out. And so they had already printed the list by the time I canceled. But I just thought that was amazing that Holland America does that. Heads up on that. But it works very smoothly. So even if you fly in somewhere the night before your cruise, you can just stay at a hotel right there by the airport, use their free shuttle to get to and from the airport to the hotel and back again in the morning, and then be there ready to catch the Princess transfer. Usually they go quite early. I always try, when we are going to take a Princess transfer, I try to be to the airport by 8 o'clock. And it depends on how far it is from where the airport is to the port, to how early they're going to have to go, and to how late the last one will leave. Okay, so keep that in mind. When you're somewhere that it's a long ways, you've got to go pretty early in order to make it. But if you're somewhere that it's closer, they'll keep them going a little bit longer. So make sure, it usually says in your travel summary area, in the travel summary in your itinerary, prints out in that paragraph what time those transfers will start going. The transfers are first come, first serve. So whoever is there first, you're going to get on the first one. Okay, that's how that works. The other really important thing to know is when you are getting off the ship, and it depends on which port you're at. So think of it this way. In some ports, you're going to have two options. You can either put your luggage out the night before, and if you're brand new to cruising, that's what you do. You put your luggage in the hall, usually it depends on the cruise line, by 10 or midnight. You put your luggage there. The amazing crew members take it, and they take it down, and in the morning it will be in the big hall before you go through customs to get your luggage, and it's coded with your tag so that then you can find the right section to find your luggage. It's just not in a big heap. It's very organized. Then you get your luggage, then you go through customs, then they'll always have people directing you to the transfer no matter what cruise line it is. And so you just follow your directions. When you get to the transfer, they put your luggage under the bus that you're getting on. Then when you get to the airport, they take it off, give it to you, and you go ahead and go in and check in. In some ports, they have the service that you can check your luggage so that when you put it out the night before, you don't see it again until it shows up in the baggage claim of your home airport. But that's not in every port, and so you just have to ask about it. And like in Fort Lauderdale, sometimes they've got it available, I've seen, and then also they've had it in Seattle recently. So those are some good options to think about when you're doing that. And then finally, another thing to think about when you are doing a transfer, always remember when you get off the ship, a lot of times, you don't want to get your flights really early in the morning, because if anything is delayed, like when we were getting off the ship somewhere, it was in New Orleans. It was a really long line to get off the ship, and they only had a few people working customs there, so it was a really long line. It was going very smooth, very slowly. It was smooth once it was your turn, but it was very long lines, and so I would not have wanted to have a flight out at 9 o'clock that morning. If you think, well, the ship is going to get there, really early in the morning, I can get right off and run for it. Not necessarily, and so don't book your flights too early. But sometimes to get that flight out, you are going to be in the town, wherever the port is, for a long time until the evening. So always look and see if the cruise line has an excursion available if you'd like to do a little bit of sightseeing. And when you do that, the ones that I have been on with Princess, you bring your luggage with you, and they'll put it under the bus that they take you on the excursion on, so that then when they eventually take you to the airport, you'll have your luggage right there. Now, I noticed in Seattle that they have a hop-on, hop-off bus. So don't be thinking, if you book that excursion, don't be thinking you have to take all of your luggage with you on that excursion. You don't. Okay, they will take care of it for you. And I think we might do that excursion. So I'll let you know. We haven't quite decided. I need to decide. But anyway, so there's some things to think about with transfers and everything. If you have any questions, just let me know. When you do book a Princess hotel for before, and this goes for the other cruise lines as well, if you book a Celebrity hotel or a Norwegian, whatever, if you book a hotel that is part of your package, like you book it, you're going to fly in that day early, they'll meet you at the airport. The Princess people will, or the Celebrity people, the whoever people, they will meet you and take you to that hotel, and the next day they will take you from the hotel down to the port. Okay, so it's actually very nice, and they will list which hotels are available. I know as a travel agent I can see it, and there are some cruises that are a little bit further out that don't have any hotels listed yet, and I'm thinking it's probably because they're just still working on that. But a lot of the cruises, especially to their really high volume ports, they will have the hotels listed, and you can choose what you want if you want to do that. It's just an extra layer of them taking good care of you, and just if you like that service, it's available. So if you think of anything else, let me know. Okay, now the next thing that I wanted to talk to you about is Holland America in Japan. So we have talked about, we're so excited that our Diamond Princess is back in Japan. Such a big deal. Going from Claire when everything happened with COVID there in March of 2020 with the Diamond Princess, that she is back sailing, and things, it sounds like, are going beautifully. Holland America just arrived back in the port there in Yokohama, Japan on March 13th, and they are going to be doing on the Westerdam, they are going to be doing a bunch of cruises with some different itineraries there in Japan as well. They're going to be doing 11 to 14-day cruises to different ports, including Kobe and Osaka, Takashima, Kagoshima, and Shimizu. I hope I said those right. So they are really excited. The very first, it's their first time, like the other cruise lines, being back there since 2020. I do want to tell you one thing, though, that I find really interesting, and that is that you know, Holland America and Princess are owned by Carnival Corporation, the same. And so sometimes we think of things, well, I do. Sometimes I think, oh, they're similar. But in some ways they are not. I think that if you want to go to Japan and have that Holland America experience with the music walk, that's kind of your vibe and your thing and everything. And they've got these 11 to 14-day cruises. That is really amazing. I would say Princess has a wider variety of itineraries, and they go to a much larger number of ports. Okay, so if you were thinking of taking a cruise to Japan, this is what I would do if it was me. I would look at the offerings both from Princess and from Holland America. Then I would do some research and see which of those ports I really wanted to go to. If I wanted to be somewhere for a certain festival, because I know that Princess lists actually when they will be there for different festivals and everything. So just make sure that as you're choosing, because I think both cruise lines would be amazing in Japan, just make sure that you're choosing like where you really want to go the most, so that you're sure to make sure that you go, and also for like the time that you're going to go, that you see as much as you possibly can. So look at your dates, look at those itineraries, and take that into consideration. And then also they are going to have a 14-day North Pacific crossing to Seattle, where then the Westerdam will be doing sailings for Alaska. So there's some fun things for you. So clearly Holland America, I should also add this, Holland America in Japan is not the same as Princess in Japan. Princess in Japan is a big deal because they've got the Diamond Princess, and there she stays. She's going to be there for a long time doing sailings in that region. And the Westerdam is going, and then at the end of, in order to be back over here for the summer season in Alaska, she'll be zipping across with the Trans-Pacific, which is amazing. So if you wanted, you could go and like do a Japan cruise and then back it up against that Trans-Pacific. So if you need help doing that, you can send me an email. I think that would be terrific. Alrighty, now before I tell you the story about the TikToker who said they don't know about cruising to Alaska, would you please subscribe to our channel? We need you with us. We are trying to grow our Let's Go family, and would love it if you would hit that subscribe button if you have not done so. If you have already done so, thank you so much. And if you go ahead and subscribe to Midday, thank you, and welcome to our Let's Go family. Now, I came across a story about a person on TikTok, and they kind of told the story of cruising to Alaska, and it was really funny. And so the reason, well, not funny, I don't mean funny bad, I just mean it's interesting. The whole TikTok thing is interesting to me. I don't look at TikTok, I don't do TikTok. I've had people suggest to me I would get more viewers if I would do TikTok. TikTok is not my thing, and I'm not doing it. So, but if you do TikTok, it doesn't mean I think it's bad. Okay, I'm not against you. Okay, just to be clear on that, you're awesome. So I wanted to tell you. Let me tell you this quote. I can confirm this. We went on a cruise to Alaska and the water was so rough. Towards the end of our cruise, my weather app said we were under a tsunami warning, and my mom and I were freaking out because the waves were so bad and everything was shaking in our room. Not cruising to Alaska anymore. And so as I came across this story and read it, I thought to myself, how many people would see this and would think, oh, I'm never going to Alaska because it is just always rough and it's scary, and we shouldn't be going to Alaska. And so I felt like I should represent the cruising side of the story and the side of those of us who have been lots of times, who have been there when it's kind of rough, and also some things to think about to maybe lessen the chances that you will experience this. Now, we all know that weather can change in any month of the year, that unexpected things can happen. I do want to say that. Just because you book going to Alaska in July does not mean that you might end up in the middle of a storm. You could. Your chances of ending up in the middle of the storm are much less than they are if you go in September. I want to go to Alaska sometime in September because I want to see it at that time of year as it's getting closer to winter time and clearly moving away from summertime. But I know lots of people who have been to Alaska in September, and yep, it is cheaper. There's a reason it's cheaper, because they do experience a lot of rough seas. They do experience more fog, but every once in a while you get an amazing season and it's beautiful. So you can't always count on it. But I wanted to tell you that, first of all, consider the season that you're going in and the month that you're going in, because like I said, it doesn't take away all the risk, but it can really very much mitigate the risk and when you choose to go. Another thing that I think is really important to think about when you go to Alaska is to me the basics are like, be careful where you book your cabin on the ship. If you have never been on a cruise before and you don't know if you get seasick, don't book forward. Just don't. When Gordon and I sailed forward a couple of times, the sea wasn't even really that rough, and we could feel the ship going like up and down all the time. And then when it was a little rougher, you could really feel it more. Luckily, neither one of us get seasick, so it was okay, but you do feel it a lot more. So if you've never been before, don't book forward. Always remember that you will feel more movement up high on the ship. So if you've not been before, book on a lower deck, and midship or back a little bit is usually more stable. We've done mid forward an awful lot just because it's often cheaper, and we've never had a lot of trouble there. But if you don't know if seasickness is going to bother you, take those things into consideration. Another thing that I think is really important to think about when you go to Alaska is, to me, it's the same as anywhere else from the standpoint, over in the Caribbean we have hurricane season, and you can depart on a cruise during like the summertime or just any time and think you're just only going to have a wonderful trip, but a hurricane could come, or a tropical storm, very unexpectedly. Often they track them and can see them coming, but at the same time you've got your cruise booked, so you go and hope for the best. And you should know that cruise lines are so careful. They are very, very careful, because not only like their number one thing is keeping their passengers and their crew safe. Okay, that's number one. Number two, I think, is, I don't know what their number two is, but if it was me, I'd be thinking, that's an expensive ship that I own. I want to take good care of it. First, I want to keep everyone safe, but second, let's take care of the ship while we're at it. So they are really careful about paying attention to storms, paying attention to what's going on. They will alter itineraries if they have to go around storms that would be too much to go through. They do what they need to do in order to keep you safe. So if you are on a ship and it's going up and down more than you like, just know they're doing their best to keep you safe, and they are taking the measures that they need to keep everybody safe. And of course, a funny thing can happen anytime, alrighty? And I would add, in the Caribbean, cruise fares are cheaper during hurricane season, right? Because you have a greater risk of something like that happening. So just be aware, like, book what you can afford, away you go. And the last thing I would say is embrace it. You're on a cruise, and I know that it's hard to embrace. I remember when we were coming home, coming up the side of South America after we'd been to Antarctica, and the captain he kept taking us in all these beautiful, beautiful Chilean fjords to get us out. The ocean was very, very rough as we were coming up towards Santiago. very rough, like the roughest we've ever felt. And so he would take us into the fjords, and then you could tell right when we went back out into the ocean because it got so rough. And I remember at one point thinking, what am I doing? Like, why did I put myself in this situation? But just that quick, it just, in my head, I knew everything was okay. And so just do your best to distract yourself. If you are somewhere and the ship is moving an awful lot, go down to that main level there, like where the piazza is, or on whichever brand of ship you're on that main level there, you know, like the one that has, you know, the main level, and go back a little bit aft and look for somewhere to sit down and enjoy yourself. Whether it's in a dining room, take 3 hours for dinner if you need to. I know on a lot of Norwegian, the Norwegian ships that we've been on, the Encore and the Breakaway, the Manhattan room is the dining room that is right there at the very aft of the ship, and it's on that main. Just go sit down and have a nice dinner and just enjoy yourself, but be somewhere like that and distract yourself. Don't just sit on the edge of the bed thinking, man, the ship is moving so much. Just do what you can to distract yourself. But I just really felt like I should add that most of the cruises to anywhere in the world, everything goes very smoothly as far as the weather goes. To Alaska, absolutely, things go smoother than not. And so enjoy going to Alaska. If you're thinking about going to Alaska, oh yes, you should go to Alaska. And once you go, you'll just want to save your money and go again. That's how marvelous Alaska is. So I just felt like I needed to add that today. So I was hoping that all of you would share your experiences with going to Alaska, whether you had rough seas or not, and what your favorite thing about going to Alaska is. And if you haven't been yet, are you thinking of going, or do you have other places you would rather go first? So thanks for joining me today. You all are wonderful. Like I said, please subscribe if you wouldn't mind. If you appreciate these updates, please give this video a thumbs up, and I will be talking to you all again really soon. You all take really good care. God bless you. Love you. Bye-bye.